Hello and welcome to the match report hosted by Free in Midfield, Cahill, Kojo. Get it wrong once again. There we go. See, you switch. You're usually on the left-hand side, Kojo. So I got it right. I would have got it right, but you decided to mess about.
I'll put you in the host chair. You're the host. You're the king,
All right then.
How you doing,
Messing up my whole mojo. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. There's a few somber faces down below, so better than them, I'd say. Better than them, but it is what it is. I kind of, because I'd like to be in the Champions League final again, but I'd like to win it. Okay, so
we've been there. We've been there before. That's true.
You three have been to the mountaintop. I'm just chilling at the bottom, like waving up. But anyway, let's bring in our lovely guest. We'll start with you, Ish. How you doing, sir? First time here?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I wish it could have been better circumstances making my debut in that, but can't complain, man. Can't complain. Like we were saying off air, for about 95% of Saturday, great day, and then obviously the result, what happened before the match, kind of definitely ruined things a bit. But yeah, it's been a long old season. Glad it's over. If I'm being honest, I'm glad it's done. So I'm looking forward to a little break. Yeah.
Oh, bro.
You definitely should be as well. You definitely should be.
I am. Bloody hell, I've been praying since October, my friend. So
yeah, true.
Steve, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm reconciled with what's going on, to be honest with you, from a football pitch perspective. I had quite a lot of friends who were in and around the ground and had guns and things pointed at them. I'm a pepper sprayed and tear gassed and all that stuff, mate. So, listen, in the 80s when football hooliganism was a problem, we need to learn. We're almost 40 years on and we've gone right back to those dark days because of the way that people handle things. And no man should go to a football match in the 21st century and have a gun pointed at them. It just shouldn't happen for the reasons that they did as well. So I don't want to get sort of bogged down too politically, but what's gone on there is an absolute disgrace. And I'd like to think there'll be ramifications, but I'm not convinced there will be.
It doesn't seem like there will be. The French government are just pretty much passing on the blame right now. But so, and it's pretty much past the parcel with that. UEFA saying not our fault, it's Liverpool fans or rival fans, whatever they want to say. But it's all nonsense, and we know that. But Ish, you were there. You were saying before the podcast. So just take us through the day and what exactly happened, if you want to. I mean, if
yeah. No, it's cool. Like I was saying, I was watching the game in the fan zone, so I wasn't. It was quite a long way from the stadium, but I think I was in a group of like 6 or 7. Two of the guys who have had tickets for the game, so they kind of left off like maybe about 5ish. And yeah, some of the shit they were saying happened. Some of the stuff I've seen, like clips and stuff as well, like just nuts. And then on top of like all the kind of stuff with UEFA and then the French police and that, also hearing that fans were getting robbed on the way to the game as well. So yeah, it's just like the game itself was like as bad as it can get. We lost, but then on the way home, it's just like kind of puts things into perspective a little bit. Like it is just a game, as serious as we like to take it. It is just a game, and like especially with stuff that's kind of gone on in the history of our club as well.
Yeah,
those kind of scenes that we saw was just like, yeah, kind of like I said, puts things all into perspective. But on a positive note, if there is one, the day leading up to the game, one of the best days I've ever experienced as a fan, or like full stop. Like, yeah, just a kind of, obviously the game didn't go the way we wanted it to, and I think we've seen yesterday with the parade as well. It's just like we're not going to win games all the time. Like we've been spoiled the last few years. You can't go to every final expecting to win it, or you can expect to win it, but it's not always going to go that way. But yeah, man, just leading up to the game, spot on. You saw like the very best of football, very best of our fan base. But yeah, like Steve was saying, it's a shame that's not what it's going to be remembered for. But yeah, man.
It was completely unnecessary. I just don't understand the mindset of the. So what I've heard was that there was a gate where they allowed Liverpool fans to pass through, and that gate was blocked off by a van or an ambulance.
So what happened was they corralled all the Liverpool fans into an underpass.
Mm.
And when they got to a certain point in that underpass, they blocked up 75, maybe 80% of that underpass with 2 police vans.
Yeah.
And you could get 4 people past the front of that van, no more, in a line.
There's 20,000 people there as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were people there thinking shades of what's gone on before without sort of dragging that up.
Of course.
And then when they did get there were 2 gates open when there should have been 13. And the stewards behind the gates were asking for money off the Liverpool fans to open the gates. And then they pepper sprayed them for showing them for going, I've got a ticket, as there's video evidence showing that. And it just leaves a sour taste in the mouth. It's so unnecessary. The French police have always had a reputation of being a bit over the top in terms of, bit mad, to be honest with you, the way they conduct themselves. Yeah. But then to go into a restaurant at the end of the night and start hitting women with riot sticks and things and pepper spraying 9-year-old children in the face, who are no threat at all to anybody, by the way. There's a lot for them to analyse. There's a lot for them to talk about. Quite a lot of the sponsors have just read. Quite a lot of the sponsors from the whole Champions League journey have written to UEFA asking for an explanation. TalkSport, Andy Goldstein, nonetheless, is absolutely 100% behind Liverpool on this, and he's never been behind Liverpool on anything. So, that's how deep it's gone. That it's a real major issue. And I posted lots of neutral reporters' comments up to and during the game, just to re-educate the ignorant people out there that straight away thought, it's English fans, it's Liverpool fans. One final thing I would say is you can get copies of anything you want from the internet, from anyone you want. So don't be surprised that every single football match, the length and breadth of the globe, has people with counterfeit tickets, because there are people out there that it's their dream to go to a Champions League final and will unwittingly pay someone £1,000 for a ticket that's not worth the paper it's written on. And unfortunately, I've seen lots of that, lots of comments about that this weekend, and people get exploited where emotion's involved. It's a really good opportunity to exploit people, and that's what's happened. There were not 30,000 Liverpool fans without tickets. That's an absolutely ludicrous thing to come out and say. Also, one of the UEFA officials told one of the press that the reason they put up on the board inside the ground that it's been delayed for 15 minutes due to late arrival of fans, was to placate the fans inside the ground rather than to create an issue telling them there's a problem outside. So there's no consistency in the things that are being said whatsoever. And if you're going to cover up stories, you've got to be consistent with your story. And everyone has to be sort of reading off the same page to perfect a cover up. Not that you should, but to perfect one. So, yeah, it stinks. It absolutely stinks. And, where's that Super League when you want it? Because UEFA clearly can't handle games of that magnitude. France has had no away fans at many, many games for a long time now because it's got a problem with hooliganism.
Yeah.
Those fans turned up and robbed people after the game, including the entire Liverpool media team were robbed.
We saw even, sorry to cut you, Steve, we even saw what happened with St Etienne. It was yesterday or the day before as well. They got relegated and their own fans are going on to the pitch, attacking them with flares.
So it's a major problem over there. So they're not geared up for putting on events where you get 2 sets of fans coming to a ground, because years ago, and when we've played there before, there's like a ring of steel right around the whole area, and you couldn't get anywhere near the ground without a ticket. But they're so detached from reality because of the problems they've got in their own league, with their own domestic problems. France is quite an aggressive place at the moment with the Macron issues and stuff like that. Just spilled over and absolutely destroyed what should have been European football heritage in a showpiece final.
It also goes to say that the final was originally planned for Moscow as well. So the planning time of a few months maybe plays a part in this. But if you're going to choose a country with a history recent history of fan violence and hooliganism, it doesn't make any sort of sense to choose France. There's a list of European nations willing and able to deal with this and take on this this final. And it seems like negligence from the entire UEFA, and this shit happened, and it absolutely shouldn't have. And it's a shame because it did sour a final. I mean, Camila Cabello was very, very upset that fans were booing her or not play or singing the anthem. So it, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a very weird one, and hopefully it will never happen again. But like you said, UEFA, they're so disorganized. We never know. We absolutely never know. With all that being said, there was a game on, and it was a fantastic game. And I'd like nothing more than to just talk about that with you guys, even though you were on the wrong end of the match. The match itself ended 1-0 to Real Madrid. Goal scored by Vinicius Jr. in the 59th minute of the game. Boys, you had it. It seemed like Liverpool were in so much control of that game for the first 40 minutes, I'd say. And then there was a chance. Well, I know a chance. I mean, it was a goal. Me and Kojo in the group chat and was saying we don't understand how that's not been given. But the rule was that if it's deflected and it's given offside. So it is what it is. But after that moment, the game seemed a lot more open. And Real Madrid, I mean, they took their chance in the end. I'm gonna come to you, Ish. I know your manager said the problem was you didn't stick the ball in the back of the net, but maybe there's a bit more into what he was saying.
There's a few things to look at with this. I think you said that there were comments about us controlling the game, which I think we did do in large parts, but at the same time, I do think Madrid also looked quite controlled in the way they were defending. I know we had the chance from Salah and the chance from Mane. I said they were the two best chances. But if you're looking at them both in isolation, that's just an amazing bit of skill from Salah to bring the ball down and control it. That's just one ball over the top. Mane's one does really well to create space for himself and get the shot off. But I do think looking back on the game, with the amount of the ball we had, I don't think we really worked Madrid enough, and we didn't really sustain any attacks, if I'm being honest. It was an attack, then it'd break down, it'd get turned over, then we'd have to kind of try and start again. But if I'm being honest, I think after they scored, I don't think we really looked like doing too much. Like, I think I just had hope for until pretty much the last ball was kicked, just because I was kind of in the thick of it. But I think if I was to put my sort of neutral hat on, I don't really think we looked like we were going to get a goal, if I'm being honest. And then the goal that comes from them, I see a lot of people pointing the finger at Trent. I know he probably could have done better to try and block the pass off, but I think that's a difficult one for him. Like, if he stretches and sticks a leg out, it could go into his own net. So it's a goal either way. For me, I kind of think you've got to be looking at the source of where the cross came from. If I'm not mistaken, I think Robbo was caught high up the pitch. Van Dijk not really getting close enough to his man on that. So
You've seen all the pictures as well, which are quite damning.
Yeah, I don't
depends how you look at it.
One of the pictures I saw, but
really depends. Really depends how you look at that.
But I don't know. What do you reckon? I think the Trent is sort of the easy victim in this, because it's something that's kind of been in this game a lot in terms of him not being able to block crosses coming across him. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think first of all, the ball is a great ball cross. Valverde that plays that cross, great ball.
It's a cross as well. It wasn't a shot. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's definitely. I don't know where anybody was thinking he shot that. It was a fantastic ball across. He just pinged it. Beautiful.
But I don't know. Like, my biggest disappointment isn't with the goal or how it was conceded. I just don't think anyone really strode up apart from Kanai. I think, like, I don't think anyone can actually leave the pitch and say, "Oh yeah, I put my all into that final." But
what do you think that is? Do you think it's all competing on all fronts coming to bite you in the backside?
I think the short answer is yeah. The short answer is yeah. That was the 63rd game we played all season. Like, the long and short of it is we've played more 90 minutes than that means something to any other team. So like, it's going to come into it. It's been creeping into our performances of late, but I don't know. You'd like to think in a final that you would have one more sort of last effort at putting everything in, but it's easier said than done. But again, I know this is something that's been kind of put about just as a last point, but I think a lot of people did underestimate Real Madrid. If I'm being real, like as much as we've got European heritage, theirs is on another level. They sit at a table with them and them only. So like you got to just give the other team props. Like I think we played the occasion and then they played us. Just it's one of them. It's one of them. But yeah, it's annoying to end the season like that. But we go again next year.
I mean, just to talk about the goal, I thought honestly it was a wonderful bit of counter-attacking play. I mean, they were very comfortable passing out the back. There was a few moments where the Liverpool press is very dangerous, and there's a sense of inevitability that they will get you. But they were very calm, they were cool and collected. They played it out nicely. Eventually, it came to Valverde, and a wonderful cross. The goal, the caption was the goal avoidable? Steve.
So breaking it down, Robertson tries to press Modric. There's your first mistake. Modric is press resistant, so you can afford to sit off him. He's never going to run past you. So you can park yourself in front of him 10 yards and say, right, you've now got to move the ball. So you go and press him, which is a little bit gung-ho from Robertson. Ever since Wijnaldum left the team and we've had either Thiago or Curtis Jones on there, we've conceded goals down that side against West Ham, against Everton. There's other instances where we've been a little bit weak on that side of our midfield in terms of defending. Thiago's not revered for defensive qualities. He's revered for controlling the game of football with the ball at his feet rather than chasing it. The Van Dijk thing is an interesting one because he can't do one thing or the other, because whatever he does, there's going to be pictures on the internet calling him out because he's a special player, and rival fans and media outlets don't need any excuse to take snapshots of certain things and identify it. So if he goes to Valverde at the point when the danger first arises, it's a very simple ball inside and Van Dijk's out of position and they get in anyway. So cast your mind back to the Champions League final against Spurs when he got caught with both Son and Moussa Sissoko on a 2-on-1. And he held his position in between the two of them. And then at the last second, he closed Sissoko and he smashed it over the bar. That is that scenario, but on the edge of your box, which was nigh on impossible to do. So I'm not buying into this agenda that we've all seen defenders do this. And there's a picture of Van Dijk trying to block the ball, make himself big. And there's a picture of Harry Maguire tackling his own man. They're not the same thing, right? So let's not get that twisted.
I've never seen that.
They're really not. They're really not. So it's avoidable from that perspective. And if you analyse the goal, I'm not even sure they will analyse the goal because it's done and the season's finished and we move on. You do have to stop it at its source. And the source is you can't press Modric and in doing so expose the complete left-hand side of your defence. You just can't do that. There's a big lesson for Andy Robertson to learn on a personal level there. For me, there'll be other people that don't agree. The ball across the box is a tremendous ball. Trent's body's not open, so it's difficult for him to read it, and he's always going to get caught flat-footed. Also, he could have stepped one step out to get in line with the rest of the back four, and then you're possibly looking at VAR for an offside. But that's splitting hairs. That's the last part of it. He's the guy who's probably number one target again with certain other YouTube channels on Twitter that have an agenda against him. It's a poor goal to concede as a team. So don't look at individuals. Look at how the team handled that. And in answer to your headline there, yes, it is avoidable. But give Real Madrid the opportunity to use the ball the way that they did. They didn't do anything wrong, and it's a really smart finish because he has to get his knee over that ball because that could have ended up in the crowd. As Ish said, props to them for a great finish, a great team move. Just not good enough defensively from a team perspective for me. So yes, it's avoidable, but the media culprits are predictable. and not always accurate.
Gojo, this was Trent's and Van Dijk's fault. Absolutely right, 100%.
Okay. So firstly, Steve's very right about Robertson pressing Modric. You have to be very sure when you press a player. It's a very difficult thing to do, pressing in today's game. You know, when you're playing a team like Real Madrid with a smart midfielder like Modric, someone who knows how to control a ball, can make space and create passes out of nowhere and drive the team forward. You know, you got to be very, very careful with the goal. And look, even the way he pressed it wasn't a bad press, but Modric's quality means that when you press him, you have to win the ball. And the pass that he made was actually insane. He split two midfielders whilst beating Robertson's press. So that in itself was danger. And with Valverde, who's an engine, he's really a centre midfielder, so play him on the right. You know, not only was he good going forward, he's got the engine to help Carvajal, which he did as well in the game. My only issue with Van Dijk in this thing is where I feel like he could have done better was his body positioning from when Valverde got the ball. I feel like you want to usher him out, so you don't want him to come inside. You want to try and get him as far out as possible. And I think he started well in that, but as Valverde got closer, I don't know whether it was a doubt of, do I go to him or do I stick in my position? I don't know if he was doubting himself, but once he got to a position where, essentially is more his back towards Valverde rather than side on towards Valverde, that's when he was in trouble. And for me, again, Steve said it, Ish said it, when you got a player of that caliber, all of us have had it, when you've got a player of a high level, everyone's going to find a way to, get onto him in one case or another and try and make him look like an average player when we all know he's top quality. We've all had players in our clubs that have done that. But that is the pressure that comes with being a top player. At the end of the day, I think Van Dijk will look back at that and say, I should have been in a much better position body-wise than that. And, it's weird. It was weird for me to see him do that because more often than not, 9 times out of 10, there's no one that does 10 out of 10 in any situation in football. 9 times out of 10, he's in the perfect positional spot. You spoke about the Tottenham situation. I feel like Tottenham should have done better in that, but he made it difficult for them. He put doubt into Sissoko.
Son should have passed the ball to Sissoko. That
was one of the worst decisions Son will ever make. All of us sit here and know that Sissoko's decision making is 0 out of 10. But regardless, Van Dijk made life difficult for him. That's the truth. Also, when the Dutch played France and he was 1-on-1 with Mbappe, and when you're going 1-on-1 with Mbappe, he's gonna kill you for speed, you got to find a way to stop
took him right down the line.
He just positioned him in a way where it's like, you're going to go this way only. And when you get near me, then we're going to make it a physical thing instead of like a speed battle. And he tackled him. So he's got the ability to do it. No one can doubt that. But in this situation, it's the biggest game of your season, or one of two of the biggest games of the season, obviously the previous weekend and this weekend. And unfortunately for him, his positioning for me just wasn't good enough, and it helped Valverde find a space to make that pass. And when it comes to Trent, I won't be too hard on him because it's what we have to understand is when your opposite fullback goes so far forward, the team naturally will shift over. And what you're begging for is that your midfielders or your defensive midfielder come to help the defense, so you can cover spaces either behind you or in front of you. So you don't have to then make a big decision, because for him, it's also got to be a case of, okay, Valverde's coming. Now I've got Benzema in the middle. You've got Kroos approaching. Casemiro, let's see, hang around the edge of the box. You got Vinicius behind me. Ferland Mendy's someone that's go forward as well because he's learning from like a Marcelo. So it's not as simple to defend as people are going to try and say about Trent Alexander-Arnold. We know he's not the best defensively, but in that situation, it's difficult for any fullback. That's the truth.
I actually think he had a very good game as well defensively. There was one with Benzema where, by all intents and purposes, looked like it was going to be a goal. It's just that one. It was that one lapse, but again, like we've all agreed on, like it shouldn't really have got to the point where he's having to make the decision, like you said, Coach. Like he had 3 players around him, and he's like, "Shit, which one do I go and try and like put my attention on?" But if you look at it and if you just look at the goal in isolation, the fact that you can just I don't know about you, Steve, but I could see that goal coming about 3 seconds before it happened. I saw Vinicius approach him behind Trent. I was like, that ball's going to go across.
Yeah,
Trent's not going to see him in time.
Yeah.
So I think as fans, it's extra annoying just because we had the sort of bird's eye view of it. We were like, shit, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then
I think because of the naivety of the press on Modric, sold out the left-hand side of the defence a little bit. You know, it's you don't want Robertson caught there, the wrong side of the ball. You like Kojo says, you want your defensive midfield to help out, but you don't expect. It was kind of really rash to press like that. Maybe not looking up and seeing who it was, because Luka Modric has been playing in the top level of European football for 10 years. And he's a special footballer. And when his career's done, he'll be in the conversation of amongst the greatest midfielders that we've seen. You can't argue that.
Where do you guys rank him? Just
he's in the top 10 for me. I don't know where. I've not got him. He's not in the top 2 or 3. He's not. He's not a Zidane. Zidane was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He's not an Iniesta. I thought Iniesta was a magical footballer. I really did. He's a viable conversation for Lampard, Gerrard, and Scholes. He's in that sort of bracket of player for me. There are parts of his game that he doesn't do so well. Running back towards his own goal, for instance, he's not got a tackle in him, but he's like a quarterback. He could just pull the strings, and he always has been able to do that. So it depends what the conversation is. If you're looking for complete footballers, he's not your man. If you're looking for a guy to run your team for you, everything goes through him. In a mold of a Xabi Alonso, but technically better than Xabi Alonso in tighter spaces. Then he's in the top table for the conversation. He's a special footballer.
Yeah,
no doubt.
He's top 10 for me. Again, I'm not sure where. The thing is, it depends what kind of midfielder you like. If you like a goal scoring midfielder, him and Iniesta are not for you.
No.
Iniesta's numbers are nowhere near
stats.
Yeah, they're nowhere near like a Lampard's numbers. His numbers are incredible. He's a top goal scoring midfielder and a top goal scorer for a club. That's ridiculous for a midfielder. But if you also are someone who likes a controller, someone that can run the midfield, like Steve was saying, drag the team forward, create passes out of nowhere, create space out of nowhere, or as Twitter likes to call it, the pre-assist. He's that guy, but no, he's a sensational footballer. Last thing on that goal as well, quickly, is actually not the goal, but more talking about Trent as well. I think him and Konate worked wonderfully well together in that situation. Konate supported him in the right times. It wasn't about all the time. It was in the right times, the right situation. Because Trent for me isn't a tackler. He's going to be someone that'll try and either block you or just try and hold you up as much as he can. Konate is a physical specimen. He's quick, he's aggressive, and he knows when to time his challenge as well. And Vinicius struggled with him. I think what Real Madrid realized was less Vinicius, more Valverde. Go for the engine, the less cleaner. But actually, he's more clean than Vinicius on the ball, in my opinion. But eventually, that creates space for the guy that has scored as much second amount of goals, most amount of goals for Real Madrid behind Benzema. And I think Liverpool just didn't catch that.
Yeah. Trent's an interceptor. That's what Trent is. If you look at the interceptions at fullback, Trent leads the way. He's an interceptor. I have to say, shout out to Konate. That's one of the best defensive performances you'll see in a European Cup final. The guy was he was faultless. He didn't lose one of his battles at all. And as you said, Kojo is ridiculously quick. He's an absolute unit. He uses his pace and his power. Right early on, there was he won the ball off Vinicius, and then Vinicius got to the ball first and went back towards his own goal, and Konate just took it off him and pushed him out of the way with his sheer power and his pace. And at 23 years old, that guy's going to be, give him 3 or 4 years, he's going to be absolutely ridiculous.
Let's talk about Real Madrid, Kojo.
Okay.
Come on, man. I know these guys are upset, but we got to talk about how good Real Madrid were on the night, because there was a lot of going into the game, there's a lot of people that saying Liverpool are about to blow this team away. But on the night, there were multiple players that I personally believe could have got man of the match. Thibault Courtois got man of the match. Obviously, we'll get to him later as well. But I thought Valverde was fantastic. I thought Carvajal was fantastic. Casemiro, Benzema as well, and Modric. There were so many players that gave their all, especially considering their age as well. I mean, Carvajal. Let's talk. You like defenders. Let's talk about him first. Whew. To go up against Luis Diaz, one of the most informed wingers in the world right now, and absolutely pocket him.
Locked him up.
Yeah,
Absolutely amazing, immense performance from Carvajal.
So what is funny about Real Madrid and the perception of them these days from I'll say fans in general, it's not a certain section, is after they won the 3 Champions Leagues in a row, gradually seeing the team sort of slowly making their way out. Ramos gone, Varane's gone, Ronaldo's obviously left. Bale's not the same player that he was when he joined them to about, let's say, 2017.
5 times now. He got 5.
He's got 5. Isco had like a 2-year spurt. So you're looking at the team and Marcelo's now on his way out as well. He didn't even start the final. So I think the perception of Real Madrid right now is fans are thinking they won their league because Atletico were not good enough. Barcelona are going for a financial crisis and have lost many players, and Real Madrid are just not as good as they think they are. It's the Benzema show. Benzema carries them. And for me, it's unless we are keeping an eye on Real Madrid enough times to watch them and how they play, you cannot make such statements. They were underestimated against PSG, against Chelsea, against Man City, and against Liverpool. There was a lot of disrespect put on their name. And, firstly, you cannot underestimate a Champions League specialist, the greatest Champions League manager of all time right now, in my opinion, in Carlo Ancelotti. That is very dangerous to do. Obviously, the danger man up front, and he's obviously his partner in Vinicius. The experience that midfield 3 have, the first thing I was hearing from a lot of people was, would they be able to deal with the engine and the, I guess, more youthfulness in Liverpool's midfield, And my thing was, I don't think they're going to have that situation because it's, Fabinho's a great footballer, world-class defensive midfielder. Henderson, wonderful leader, has the engine to go back and forth, and Thiago's a dictator. So, well, Casemiro hasn't lost his engine. Cruz is a dictator. And Luka Modric, I don't have to talk about him. We've already spoken about him today. And then when it comes to the forward line of Liverpool versus the defensive line, now, not going to lie to you, I was a lot more worried for Carvajal than I was for Mendy because Luis Diaz, the way he's so explosive is a big problem. It's a big problem. But Carvajal dealt with him expertly. But we can't take away what Valverde did with him as well. Valverde being a central midfielder and having the experience of going back and forth from Madrid in that central midfield, playing him on the right was a masterstroke. A lot of fans don't like it when he's played there for Real Madrid in this season with Ancelotti. But the reason why he's done it is because he knows that he can help control the midfield. He can help his fullback. Carvajal is not only someone that's now touched 32, he's also someone that's had a lot of injury issues. So you got to protect him a lot more. But he's also your best right back. You're not going to play Vasquez there if they're both fit. Odriazola's off on low. So you have to protect your boy. But those two as a tandem, fantastic. And that's what you've seen all season from Real Madrid. So when they approach the game, just bring the lineup here, if you don't mind me. Bring on the lineup. So Alaba was a huge miss for them against City. You can see the goals they conceded, the chances they conceded. His presence was, it was very, very visible to see, or lack of presence rather was visible to see. And they got an injury at the back, and Vallejo came on, and I think Real Madrid fans were very, very much sweating, saying, if this guy can't cut it with Wolves, he can't do it for Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final. So when he comes back into the club, and you see him in the lineup, Ish said it. The reason why I feel like they couldn't get many clear-cut chances, Liverpool, and that to make something out of nothing, like Salah did, like Mane did, with 2 great touches before forcing Courtois to 2 fantastic saves, is the fact that Alaba is such a calming presence at the back. And he's also someone that's mastered a number of positions. So whether you put him defensive midfield, centre back or left back, he runs the show. He knows what he's doing. And it was a great signing considering they lost Sergio Ramos. So with Liverpool, yeah, exactly. So with Liverpool's approach as well, again, nothing wrong with this lineup. This is a very good lineup. Strong defensive lineup, very good midfield. And the forward line, I mean, 2 of them have been part of a wonderful front 3 for Liverpool for years anyway. But Diaz has come in and he's made an impact as well. So you don't have to worry about that. But what they've done is Mane is matched, in my opinion, by Alaba. Salah, because he's more of a goal getter. I think he can dribble. A lot of people think he can't, but I think he can dribble. But he's not the cleanest dribbler. Going up against Mendy, you've got a lot more youthfulness, so someone that's ready to go for him. And the shot that he had where Courtois made a wonderful save, that was made a lot more difficult for Salah just because Mendy tried to keep him as far out from goal as possible.
Yeah,
kept him out wide. Yeah, you know. So look, I'm talking about this bit by bit because it's things that Real Madrid have done in games, and yes, they have gone behind against Chelsea. They lost the second leg against Chelsea, but obviously because in the first leg they were given hell by Man City. But I kept saying this team can win the Champions League. I called it from early. Gonna brag a little bit there. It's the beginning of the season, I said Chelsea wins. I think I called them for it because this is a Real Madrid team that has found a perfect cohesion, and they have dropped all the philosophies that didn't work. You know, from Ancelotti to Zidane to Ancelotti again, they have maintained a philosophy which is actually building the team that works. So much so that they don't miss Ramos this season. They didn't miss Varane at all. Varane's had a one hell of a time at United, by the way. And you know, in the midfield, they still got the generals, and they're ready for the next stage because Camavinga is out there. You know, Rodrigo's still young, so Valverde will go back into that midfield. And already rumors today that they've stepped in for Tchouaméni. So they're building, and this is why I don't worry about Real Madrid. And this is why going into the final, as much as people are saying that Liverpool were overwhelming favourites, I said, as fantastic as Liverpool have been for the last 3 or 4 years, or even 5 years, I'll say, you cannot look at this Real Madrid team and think it's a done deal. That's a huge mistake to make. You cannot praise Karim Benzema and say because he's coming up against Van Dijk, it's not going to work. He didn't have the best of games either, but you know what he brings, you know. And Van Dijk said it. He's a fantastic player, but so am I. That's a battle. Let's duel, you know. So look, for me, Real Madrid, you just don't underestimate a team that has European excellence. It took them 12 years to win La Decima. They learned that happen again. This is the 5th Champions League in 8 years. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Van Dijk said, "Let's duel." It's I think Benzema bought the Blue Eyes White Dragon with him. Sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh joke. I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah? Oh no, I'm gonna get you guys to praise Real Madrid here and their performances. I agree with Coach Joe. I think Ancelotti's plan was absolutely fantastic. He dealt with a lot of plays. He dealt with a lot of threat. Even though you did create many chances, but they weren't clear cut enough. So just for a second, I know it may pain you guys, but just give us your thoughts on how Real Madrid played you. We can start with you, Ish.
Yeah, Courtois is probably the best place to start first, isn't it? I mean, what I liked about his performance was one thing I will say: we've seen this season a lot more unforced errors from keepers. Let's just say keepers trying to do things that aren't necessarily in their comfort zone, like it is for Ederson, like it is for Alisson. We're seeing keepers got no right to be dribbling, no right to be trying Cruyff turns, trying stuff like that. So what I enjoyed about Courtois' performance is that it was shot stopping first. Everything else came after that. It was just I'm not on it. That was his first instinct for everything. There were times when he was going long, which whether that was a game plan or not, he was doing it. He thought that was the best thing to do at the time. So I thought it was amazing. I got to about maybe the 70th minute, and I can't remember which chance he had, but I remember so much. We might not actually win this. This keeper is actually putting out a world here. And listen, that can happen. That's why the goalkeeper is the most important position on the pitch. People say it's a striker, but I still think if you haven't got a proper goalkeeper, you're not really going places. So yeah, God give him props for that. And they defended well. I've got to be honest as well. Like I was when I was saying before, Carvajal not having the best tournament I've seen many a winger have their wicked way with him in all the knockout stages. So I was kind of licking my lips, but yeah, it looked like Diaz didn't really have anything for him, if I'm being honest. Like you said, they did double up on him well, but even in the 1v1s, I still think he kind of got the better of Diaz a lot. And I think the first sort of 20, 30 minutes, we were going down that left-hand side quite a lot. Diaz was looking sharp, but overall, you can't really, you can only really say there was one winner. I think Diaz got hooked in like 60th minute, 66th minute, something like that. So like the players that I thought might be sort of weak areas for them, they all stood up and counted for. And in a one-off game in the final, like you can get that. It doesn't always go to script. Form, it's a cliche, but form goes out the window. And listen, heritage really kind of prevailed on that, because I think for players to be playing at that level when they haven't been, some of them for weeks, some of them for like the whole season been patchy, that's down to the history of the club. I think I can't remember which player it was. I think it might have been Ceballos for saying that he was sort of shitting it before the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were playing cards.
Playing cards
they were playing cards or something like that.
That kind of stuff. You can't fake that. That's like
No.
that's a kind of calmness and assuredness that you get from winning 4 previous Champions Leagues. Like that's just what it is. You can't, like, those are the intangibles that you can't really account for in football. So like the form we were in, the form they were in, it didn't matter going into the game. It didn't matter going into the game at all. And I just think they executed their game plan perfectly. Like, we could have played that game for another hour and a half, and I'm not sure we would have scored. Like, you can say it was luck as well with some of the chances. On another day, Courtois doesn't quite stretch his arm out enough. Because if you look at the arm he got on that Salah chance, like it was nuts to kind of hit him like mid, and now the strength in it to kind of pull away. On another day, that palms out and it goes straight to Mane's feet. But I just, from a tactical point of view, like I know I'm meant to be giving Madrid their flowers, but I'm a bit disappointed in sort of A, the subs that Klopp made, and B, the time. And I think we could have seen some changes a bit sooner, because it got to a point, like I said, it didn't look like we were going to get a goal with the players that we had out at that time. So I would have liked to see something a bit sooner. Do we look at sort of Thiago for being a starter and maybe not being 100%? But I think they were right in the game. But I think him bringing Naby Keita onto early was a sign that maybe there were issues in that midfield. So I don't know, man. I don't know. You can pick these things apart, but I think just to kind of finish on Madrid, they just execute the game plan perfectly. That's kind of all that's the main thing I can put it down to. Like, we've obviously let ourselves down in certain areas and that, but you've just got to just accept it sometimes. Like they were better than us on the night, and it's just how it goes. It's hard to swallow, but it's just one of them, isn't it? It's just one of them.
I mean, you mentioned Naby Keita, and what a contribution he had, because that shot was absolutely wild. I don't know what he was thinking.
Honestly, like, the reaction in the fan part to that was like, oh my god!
You know what, Steve? Let me ask you about Naby, because I've been talking about 2 other Liverpool players that are leaving later on. Naby Keita has been there for, I don't know, what, 3 years now? I said 3 years.
Going into his 5th, I think, isn't it?
Well, maybe, okay, so maybe 4 years.
Yeah, he's been there a long time.
It's been
a while. Okay, so obviously talented footballer, we all know it. Has had some good games for Liverpool, but he's also had a lot of injuries, and it looks like he's not carrying a lot of favour with Liverpool fans. There will be a stage where Liverpool look to build the next team. Obviously, you've had a couple of guys there that have ran the show for a couple of years. Is he right now? I know it could change next season, but right now, is he looking like he's going to be part of that next Liverpool stage for you?
There's something in him that Klopp likes. He's a really good presser, his pressing stats are up there with anybody's, but it's not enough. I mean, how you first comes almost goes out for a throw, and I don't really know. He can pull that down and he can have a go, because he's got 5 yards. Pull it down. It's a really poor decision. And as I said yesterday, another stream. The way the players looked at him was very reminiscent of the way the players looked at Loris Karius for the first goal in the Champions League final. Again, as if to say, what on earth is that? This is professional football. You don't do things like that. So in terms of his future at the football club, going back to some of the points Ish made very well too, we didn't have enough in midfield. I tweeted at half-time, we need to quicken this up because we were very pedestrian. I don't think Thiago is fit, but here's the answer to your question. You would pick 70% fit Thiago over 100% fit Naby Keita all day long. So that kind of tells me where he's at. We probably need to change the shape of our midfield. So we've talked about this quite a lot because obviously I've gone Red Men and I contribute to that. We've talked about this a lot. We can see Fab and Hendo sharing the 6 in the next year to 18 months a lot more. What does that leave us? It leaves us Curtis Jones, Thiago, Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain's going in the summer. That's absolutely certain that he won't be at the club next year. And Harvey Elliott. Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott are interesting parts of their development as centre midfielders, and they're not the finished article. And you wouldn't pitch them against Luka Modric and Toni Kroos in a European Cup final because that would be unfair on their development. So you probably wouldn't do that. We need some dynamism from somewhere. We need someone who can come on and change a game. We need someone who can come on and pick up the pace. I don't know if we're going to tweak our shape slightly and not be so flat across the middle because interesting the point you made about, and I'll give Real Madrid some credit. When we were building play, where their fullbacks dropped back to was really, really clever because it took all the space away that you kind of potentially want to give the ball to Mo Salah and Diaz in. And Carvajal won his first challenge against Luis Diaz, and he came through him like a steam train. He's become a very aggressive defender. He's kind of picked up the Pepe stroke Ramos defensive model that says, I'll split you in half. In the last Champions League final against Liverpool. Nobody's been in Europe. That's been thrown around at the moment, and he'll probably go there because that axis of him and Camavinga with Valverde is a mouth-watering prospect for Real Madrid fans. It really is. So we've got to respond, and our midfield is not dynamic enough. There were no game changers. You look at the bench, there were no game changers. We were really flat. As Ish said, we could have played for another hour afterwards. We still wouldn't have scored. So with the position that Real Madrid took up when we got the ball, this was also brought up yesterday. Fabinho's got the ball and he's got 10 yards of space in front of him. So he gets the ball out of his feet and he looks up and there are no options. All the options have been shut down by clever positioning and the fullbacks. He's not a guy that's going to smack one in from 25 yards in the top corner. He's done it once or twice. It's not a part of his game that we consider to be a particular strength. Thiago was definitely not himself. I think he played within himself. If you cast your mind back to the injury, that was a cross-field ball that he overhit to Trent and straight away signalled to the bench that he pulled something. So I think he played within himself. And I just think we lost the game in the midfield. We lost the quarter-final the year before in the midfield to them guys. The switch is always on when you've got those guys that are always picking the ball up on the right-hand side and trying to switch over to the left-hand side to catch Trent not at home. What disappoints me from a Liverpool performance perspective is if we played Premier League football at Premier League pace, that gives Real Madrid very different problems to potentially try to repel. And we may have created the chances that both Manchester City and Chelsea created in their games. And I referenced this on the show we had last week, guys, that we will have to start fast, stay fast, create chances and play English football. We just never did it. Across the midfield, I just don't think we were ever at the races. So something's got to change in that midfield. And going back to your original question, Naby Keita's closing in on a position where we would have to think about his contract. He's not done enough to earn an extension for me. He really hasn't. And I'm not convinced the solution to our problems lie there. And I'm not convinced the solution to our problems lie in giving him 120 grand a week for another 3 years. When twice we've been up against Real Madrid and twice he's failed to read the room and he's not been particularly great in the things that he's done in his execution of his game plan. This is not to discredit it. He belongs in the Bundesliga, picking the ball up and running into space at people, because that's the player that made the headlines and attracted a £57 million transfer fee. He doesn't belong in the Premier League. That doesn't work in the Premier League. You've got to have more about you. So no, I don't see Naby Keita being a fundamental part of Liverpool's midfield. If Mane leaves and we have to buy another central attacking force, we may have to buy a creative midfielder to play with that at the same time, because that you can't replace Sadio Mané like for like, because there's nobody out there that we can get to do the same job. So it means slight change in what we do. Great segue, that wasn't it, boys?
It was a great segue.
When you said his name, I was like, "Oh, you are wonderful." I'm waiting for it.
I mean, you did mention it there. Mane does look like he's going to leave. He does look like he's going to Bayern Munich for £30 million. I don't think it's euro. I think it's pounds. Cheap as hell, considering his age, considering the impact that he has for Liverpool. But I think you did mention on the last podcast, Steve, that because you signed Thiago for 30 million,
yeah,
kind of a like for like deal, just a good faith deal with him leaving. But it seems like the Liverpool hierarchy feel like letting go of Mane won't cost them as much, considering they got Diaz, they've got Jota as well, and they will, I imagine, sign a Carvalho coming through, and I imagine they will sign somebody else as well going forward. But I'm even thinking that Sadio Mane has been an immense player for Liverpool, and his impact and his quality is going to be severely missed. I don't think it's going to impact you so massively that you won't be challenging for titles or stuff like that. But even though, I think it's a massive hindrance.
I agree. Go on, Ish.
I was just going to say, even in the sense of like having someone who is so embedded in the system that we play and what it requires to be an attacker for Liverpool, which is a very unique role, let's just say. And let's not forget as well, he's someone who's come in and played on the right, then was moved to the left, then was moved to the middle as well. So he's actually someone who can play all across the front three. But I do. There is a part of me that does feel like we were always going to lose at least one of the front three this summer, possibly two. I do think Firmino will stay, but I wouldn't be that surprised if he left, considering how much he's been in and out this season and the injuries he's picked up as well. So for me, as much as I am sad to be seeing Mane go. My main concern now is what replacement we bring in, not the fact that he's leaving. Like you said, he's going to be a very difficult player to replace like for like. So I'm more intrigued about what we're going to do in terms of like a reaction. Do we go for like a traditional number 9 to kind of fill the spot that he's vacated from the second half of the season? But then the first half of the season, Jota was playing through the middle and he was on the left. So I'll be interested to see what we do. Obviously, Carvalho is coming in as well. He's operated a lot mainly as a 10 for Fulham last season, which you don't normally play with. So is he now going to take up the role as like the Roman 8 that we normally have in our midfield? Is he going to fill the spot on the left hand side? Because I know he can kind of cut in and shoot on his right as well. So that's interesting. But going back to Mane, I'm sort of split, to be honest, because I don't know about you, Steve, but first half of the season, Mane, I was pulling my hair out with him. I think he there was a point where he was pretty much second or third in the top goals scored, like about halfway before AFCON. But I still remember thinking, I remember watching you every 90 minutes and being frustrated with you for pretty much all of it. Decision making was poor, wasn't really getting past the man. There was even games where he maybe scored or got a brace, and he kind of, I would still give him like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for his performance. That's how frustrating he was, sort of in between the two goals. So it's great he's been second half of the season, and as much as he's a legend for the club for the 5-6 years he's been there, and like I said, he's so embedded in our system that we play. There is a part of me that still remembers him from the first half of the season and how sort of infuriating he was on that left-hand side. So it's interesting. I'm excited to see what we're going to do, but if we go and bring in someone pony for like 30 million as well, it's gonna be annoying. But I think this is an opportunity for us to go and sign like a proper player that can be part of the next sort of evolution of this club side. So it's exciting.
There's 2 names on everybody's lips at the moment, and these are, from what I can gather, 2 very real sources of inquiries. One is Darwin Núñez, who Manchester United have been linked with, and the other one is Harry Kane.
But I've been hearing the Harry Kane stuff.
Genuinely.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my!
Now that's I don't tend to love the man. I can't stand him. Backing in and trying to injure players is a really bad thing to do. The 2-footed challenge on Andy Robbo was a really bad thing to do. I've no love for the man, so if he pulls on a Liverpool shirt ever, I'd have to reconcile that and try and deal with it. What I would say was, second half of the season, dropping into the pocket and picking up the ball. This is why Son's got 23 goals this season, purely because of Harry Kane. So it's really unlikely, because Daniel Levy will probably now more than ever, because of what Conte is starting to do, make it nigh on impossible for anybody to sign him. But if it happened, then that's an upgrade on what we've got at the moment, and that makes Diaz and Salah's job next season a whole lot easier, because he's not just picking the ball up in spaces, he's finding other forwards with world-class passing, absolutely ridiculous. And as I said, I have no love for Harry Kane, but all things being due, give him his credit. Second half of the season, there hasn't been a better player in the Premier League. He's been right up there alongside, sort of the performances of a De Bruyne for me. He's been absolute stalwart in Tottenham's pursuit of 4th place. I don't see it happening, but it's gathering momentum from some seriously credible places that this is something that Liverpool are investigating. I just don't see them spending £100 million on a 29-year-old. I just don't see that happening.
As an Arsenal fan,
what's that?
Please do. Please take it. Take it. Get him out of Spurs, bro. I can't deal with that.
Can't lie to you, and from my perspective, please don't ever try that. I don't want to see that as a prospect, because Salah.
That would be our Van Persie. You see when Salah, you got Van Persie.
No. Don't be giving Van Persie.
If we sign Harry Kane, I think that's 25 goals next season guaranteed. Plus another 15 created. He gets the title.
So helping Diaz, Salah, Jota, Firmino just do whatever they want up front is absolutely ridiculous as an option. Losing, I mean, look, firstly, Origi, I think that was something that I think Liverpool fans knew was going to happen anyway at the end of the season, run down his contract. I think he's got some really, really, really important goals for Liverpool. Whenever he's been called upon, he's done the job in the biggest of games. Talk about the Champions League, obviously the corner taken quickly, goal, scoring against Tottenham in the final, putting that game to bed completely or officially. Top option for Liverpool, and a good player. Underrated. Not gonna lie, underrated. A good player. Someone that isn't getting enough respect because he's not he's not been a starter for Liverpool. But it's difficult considering what the front three was and the options being brought in as well. Now with Sadio Mané, the reason why I'm interested to see what Liverpool do is because when Klopp lost Mario Götze at Dortmund, not that they completely lost the way. Obviously, he had that last year, which wasn't fantastic. We all know that. But he didn't really know what formula to then take forward with Dortmund at that moment in time. Because that's also an influential player. You had him, you had Robert Lewandowski, you had Marco Reus. So, I'm interested to see what he does because obviously he's a lot more experienced. He's won a lot more since he left Dortmund, in terms of he's got one less league title, but he's got Champions League. he's completed the set essentially, hasn't he? Club World Cup as well and all that. I'm interested to see how he looks in the market for what he's looking for, because Klopp, I think I'll say 7 times or 8 times out of 10 gets it right in the transfer market for both clubs. You know, it could be a very different situation because you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard from some Liverpool fans that he actually wanted Julian Brandt and your club were adamant on Mohamed Salah instead.
He did.
And that could have gone a completely different way. So it's just very interesting to see, because is he going to add someone to that front three to say, okay, look, we have got Diaz, but I still want another top player there. So you have 2 top options. Is he going to try and change the formation? Maybe make Salah maybe a bit more of a, maybe part of a 2, but not directly a striker, even though he's your main goal getter, because you know he can do on the ball outside, out wide. Is it going to be a change of formation? Is it going to be a change of style? I don't know, because Sadio Mané has been, as you guys have alluded to, integral to Liverpool's success.
He's frozen. He's frozen.
Oh,
You're making valid points, Coach. Absolutely valid points, and I applaud you for that. Yeah, let's move on to the final part of the show, and I'm gonna get you guys. And yeah, I sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But let's get you to rate this season out of 10. You back now?
What happened there?
I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. But this
You're
is
spitting some serious facts as well.
It hasn't been a great few days for us in technology. Let's just put it.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. No.
But no, I'm gonna move on to the final part. I'm gonna get these guys to rate their season out of 10. 2 domestic trophies, obviously not hitting the heights with the major trophies in the end of the Champions League and the league title. But I think nevertheless, it's been a very good season. Maybe some Liverpool fans' standards are so high that it might seem like it's been a disappointment. But I think you've had a good season. Let's get you guys. Let's start with you, Ish. Out of 10, how do you think this season's gone?
I'm giving it an 8. I think. Listen, no club's got any divine right to win anything. Full stop.
Don't I know it?
Don't I know it as well? Like you've got to check yourself sometimes. Like no matter what generation you're from, I'm sort of born in mid-90s, so I grew up pretty much 90s, early 90s, bar 2001. Liverpool weren't really saying much until Istanbul. So I've kind of, and then after Istanbul, kind of went a bit stale again. So I've not really seen as many trophies as many other clubs. So I think it's easy to get caught up in the last 3-4 years of continued success, finals, and as much as that will define Klopp's tenure ultimately, I don't think that's the be all and end all. And in terms of like a one-off season, I wasn't quite old enough to like fully know what 2001 was about when we won the cup treble. But I've never been involved. I've never been around to be involved in a season where every game, the whole season, pretty much every 3 days meant everything. In the league, you can't drop points. Every draw that there was, every loss that there was, felt like the walls were caving in. Cup games, big criticism of Klopp so far is that he's not taking the cup seriously enough. And you got to also point to the fact that we did get lucky with the draw in the sense that normally we'll get a United or a Chelsea in like the 3rd round of the FA Cup randomly. So this season, the cup run kind of the gods were sort of looking down on us. So we had 2 amazing cup runs. Obviously, walked away both of them. So to get to the very last domestic game of the season and still be, obviously the treble went, the quadruple went, but still be on a chance of pretty much doing a clean sweep of all the cups, I don't think that's nothing to be sniffed at. That's not gonna that was not guaranteed to happen every year. It might not happen again for a while. So I think, and as much as there's disappointment of not getting one of like the big 2, to say that we were involved right to the end, I think that's kind of got to be worth mentioning as well. And just the football we played as well, man. Some of the games that we've seen this season, obviously, Coach, sorry about the 9-0 aggregate over United. I looked to that.
You could have just said.
I do. That all plays into it as well. That all plays into it as well.
You know, I woke up.
But yeah, I don't know. Steve, you might agree with me with this, but like even though the 5-0 at Old Trafford was special, that 4-0 at Anfield performance was just like pretty much the perfect game of football. Like I've never seen some of the interchange on the play. Actually, I like just end up smiling. So we don't even realize just smiling. Just smile. And then from a personal point of view as well, been to the both Wembley finals. Was lucky enough to be in Paris as well. So I think that kind of adds into from a personal point of view, unforgettable season. And we didn't get the big ones, but we were right there to the very end, and not many teams have been able to say that ever. So it's got to be an 8 out of 10. Obviously disappointing, but I don't know when we're ever gonna have another season like this where every game means everything. So it's got to be an 8. It's got to be an 8.
So from my point of view, being in all 4 right up till the very last kick of the very last game, which was obviously the very last kick, say we equalise against Real Madrid and things go differently in the league, it was there for us. But because it was there, because it was talked about, because it was dismissed by everybody and then still talked about, it raised the expectations and it raised the anticipation. So in any team, 2 trophies is a good season. Should Liverpool have been more focused on one of the big ones? Maybe now the fan base will relax a little bit when we play the kids in the League Cup final and we don't get to the final and we don't win it. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, I get you.
Has Klopp been proved correct in that regard? Because I think if we don't play 63 games and we take 5 games out of the league, 5 games out of the FA Cup, and we play 53, people are fresher, people are brighter, people are more focused at the end of the season, because you're talking mental fatigue as well as physical fatigue at that stage of the season with that many games under the belt. It's not a bad season. It's not a disappointing season. It's not a failure. It's a journey that we've been on as fans with the club that started out with, start of the season. Could we come back from the horrendous injuries of the year before? And as I've spoken to you two before, written off by everybody to a man about where we would finish, and that long list of pundits that said, I think 2 people had us in 3rd, and that was as high as we got out of about 25 people. We knew, Liverpool fans knew we would compete again. We knew once the bodies came back, we would be in the shakedown, we would be in the mix. So to get to the stage where you could win all 4 and end up with 2, the connect with the fans is ridiculous. The parade yesterday, which I went to, absolutely insane. My eyes were still stinging this morning from the pyro. And when all that pyro settles and all the ticker tape, all the stuff that went down the Strand in Liverpool goes, we'll look back on it. There will be some regret in terms of not being able to get across the line, but getting to 92 points wins you 25 out of 30 of the last Premier Leagues. It's no disgrace to finish second on 92 points, and it shouldn't be seen as anything else. And finals are finals, and stranger things happen, and Real Madrid shouldn't have been underestimated by those that did. You guys will know, the show was on with you last week. I certainly didn't. You could never discount them. I wanted us to play English football against them, and we didn't. So I'm in agreement with you, Ish. It's a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10 for me. It will always be used against us because we didn't take one of the 2 major trophies. So I'm going to agree with that. And I think to play 63 games out of a possible 63 games should never be forgotten, because it won't happen again because of the changes in the Champions League structure. You'll be looking at more like 80 games because there'll be a lot more games because of the... Yeah, so it's done. It's never going to happen. And there's a reason why in 150 years of association football, this hasn't happened before, because it's nigh on impossible. And we found out to our cost that it's nigh on impossible. But it is what it is. I'm over the disappointments. The situation in Paris brings the fans and the club closer together. Don't be surprised if it galvanises us going into next year and we come back bigger, stronger and better. And if we do get a certain Tottenham striker, our front 3 would be ridiculous. I don't think it will happen, but we will be back. We use adversity to our favour. It's one of Klopp's strengths, and how he turns around situations where there's disappointment and gets more out of his players. So some smart recruitment in the summer, and hopefully we're looking at 8 out of 10 plus next season for me.
Yeah, I think I think if you win one of the big ones, one of the big two, it's a 9. If you win both, it's a 10. Obviously, if you win everything that you compete for, it can't be anything less than a 10. In terms of number of games played, I mean that's it's crazy to say this because I shouldn't say about to any player, but it's something that clubs will have to get used to if they want to win everything.
Yeah.
Because when we won the treble, Man United played 62 games, so one game less. I can't remember if that's because we did win the Carabao or Worthington Cup as it was called back then. So obviously that's the one we got knocked out of. But when you're competing for all honors, the one thing you need to know is that your team's going to play that many games, and that's why it's also important for the manager to rotate the team. I'm not accusing Klopp of not doing that because I think in the past he didn't do that well. I think this season he tried to do a lot more and it worked. That's why you guys were able to stay so fresh and go as far as you did in these competitions. But that's why the next stage of recruitment is so key because we've spoken about Origi. He's already tweeted out in the last hour, that thank you Liverpool essentially for everything, that sort of tweet. Sadio Mané has requested to leave 3 times now, so this will be the summer that he does go. We're talking about, Naby Keita, is he the future? Is he staying? Is he going? But you really started with the front 3. Diaz, years on him. Jota, many years on him as well. Fabio Carvalho, 18 years old. Harvey Elliott, very young as well. Curtis Jones. So the start is there. Tsimikas as well. So now you got a backup for Robertson, who's only even 26, 27. Trent's got years on him. Gomez, I said it last week. He is a good player, but unfortunately for him, he's too injury prone. And he's not in little injuries. He's always a big one, which is upsetting for him because he's still young. And, maybe it's a case where Liverpool just have to look after him a lot more. They didn't have already, but maybe a lot more. And just manage him, maybe playing 15, 20 games a season because he's still a good player. He's still valuable, isn't he? And then the defense, Van Dijk is probably going to hit 30 or 30. He's 30 now, rather. But again, it just depends. Someone with his physical attributes, he can go to 36 anyway. So we'll see what Liverpool do next. The next stage is very, very key. This is where we talk about rebuilding teams. And, if I can go back to my glory days when I was in school, my team was very good at doing that. Now, if Liverpool can do the same, they'll keep competing. So we'll see what the next stage is. But 8 out of 10, I think is very fair. I think it's very fair. You win the other 2 and it's done, isn't it? That's a 10. Yeah.
8 out of 10. Well, can't complain. I do agree with that. I think it's been a fantastic season for Liverpool. And I say a fantastic season for us. That's the last game of the season. That's that done, man. It's been a good ride, I'd say, Kojo. How do you feel about this season?
Well, on a personal note, I was signed up from October and I started watching a lot more Scottish League Championship.
Why?
Because I went to watch James Garner. I wanted to watch my boys in Valencia. So I was enjoying a lot more of that football because my team. Well, yeah. So,
what you giving United season out of 10? Have you 4?
Yeah. That's generous.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised we're getting that. Yeah,
trust me, it's very generous. But I'm just giving them 4 because 3 is for Ronaldo, 1 is for the rest of them.
Cool.
And that's it because he did his job. Everyone else didn't. But no, look, United didn't do anything that I guess people were expecting them to do because as soon as they signed Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo, a lot of them, especially the pundits, were expecting Man United to be, challenging for everything. And I remember I told Cahill as well, I said on the podcast, you guys don't know Man United the way I know Man United. And I didn't trust the manager as well. So even if we had signed a lot more top players, I didn't have trust in the club to go further. So next year, new manager, a lot of things have started happening again already. My own expectations to try and compete for the top 4. That's it. Man United are not a title challenging team right now, so United fancy to chill with their expectations. But challenge for the top 4, get as many goals as possible out of Ronaldo because he's probably got a year left at United, or maybe 2 at most. If he decides to be kind enough to give us 1 more year, then that'll be it. But other than that, I said 4 at first. Now, if I calm and just think about it, considering the players that we signed and the expectation, that is a very, very, very strong 2 out of 10 season. There you go.
That's more like it.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. I'm not even gonna rate
Yep.
Arsenal. I'm never gonna rate Arsenal.
No, you gotta do it, man. You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Bro. We wanted to see. You guys are talking
They let
about
you. At least they let
journey.
you. They let you believe. They let you believe for a.
That's
for
the
a
thing.
second.
You guys
Cahill.
you guys
Let's
are
have it
talking
done.
about
Come
a
on.
journey.
Kel,
I
you
was
gotta
going
do
on
it,
that journey, but I didn't realize the destination was the same destination as the previous years. Well, I've been there before. It's a solid 1 out of 10, man. That team, bro. That team annoyed the hell out of me, especially those final few games. Oh my god. Arsenal, bro. Fix up, and I don't think they're gonna fix up. I think Arsenal in a heap of trouble.
This was your chance. This is your chance to get top 4. I think. It's,
honestly,
yeah,
this
I
is
think
a massive
sliding doors moment. I think.
It's done now.
Plus
Tottenham
we
already
got
started
European
their
football, so
business.
we got to rotate now as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, Tottenham have started their business. Chelsea have completed their takeover, so they're gonna want to make a statement as well. Really know about Liverpool and City. It's looking long, man. But for both of us, that's not
long.
you. Yeah, it's looking very long for both of us again. So
I don't know, man.
another free midfield full of pain.
There we go. That's pretty much been us for the past 5 years. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. But first, we got to find out where you guys can be found. Well, find out where you can be found. There we go. The English there. Wonderful. Ish, we'll start with you, sir. Where can they find you?
So D-Generation Ish for Twitter. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it's one for the wrestling fans. Yeah, mainly talking about Liverpool football, wrestling. If it's not any of those 3 things, then it's not worth reading, to be honest. And then the Equalizer _ that's where you find all the captions and that. But yeah, that's me, man. That's me on the socials. But yeah, thanks for having me on, guys, and appreciate that. It's good to come through.
D, where can they find you, sir?
Give it the socials, which is on screen. Also at Redmen TV, where I'm sort of, as you know, a weekly contributor, and I'm on there on Wednesday. We're reviewing the squad, midfield, defense, midfield, and forward. So we'll have a chat with the lads, Redmen, about that. Drop me a follow, guys. What I would say is thanks very much. I've been on here more than I thought I would be this season with you two. Always a pleasure. We have some proper good chats about football. I think that's why I like coming on here, because it's balanced and it's not sensational and it's not nonsense. Two top blokes. So really grateful for coming on. So hopefully we can do a few shows together next season. Yeah, it's been cool. So thank you. I really appreciate it, and keep up the good work, fellas. And if you're watching this, you stumble across it, then wise up and give this channel and these 2 guys a follow, because it's good content coming out of here.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure to have you on the channel, Steve. Kojo, where can they find us?
Yes, so here on YouTube, Free Midfield Podcast, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, Free Midfield. That is the socials, and of course your audios, where this will be released, I think, on a Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. 3 Midfield, that's the number 3 Midfield as well. That's your SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Free Midfield.
This has been another episode of the Match Report. Good night.